Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. So today we're going to be doing a video of Season 3, Episode 5 of Star Trek, Lower Decks, Reflections. I don't know what I was about to say, Strange New Worlds. I must be missing Strange New Worlds, man. Anyway, so check this out, right? The name of this episode, like I said, was Reflections. It's from Season 3, Episode 5. Now, there was a lot going on in this episode, right? But y'all know how I roll. It's going to be spoilers, man. If y'all haven't seen the episode, please stop this video. That's why I wanted to put it out a little bit later to give people time to see the episode, process it. Normally, what happens is I watch the episode, and then right after the episode, I'll go ahead and do a video, right? One of my bootlegs, right? But this time I was like, you know what? I'm not going to watch the episode. I'm going to just hold off for a few days. I'm going to just hold off for a few days. I'm going to let everybody else get their reviews out, and I'm gonna let everybody see the videos and see the episode, and then I'm gonna put mine out. So here it is. So anyway, um, when I watched this episode, I was thinking to myself, I was torn, kind of like I usually am when I'm watching a Lower Decks episode. And what I mean by torn is, as a person who prides himself on Star Trek canon, right? Um, on one side, I'm always pleased and overjoyed and a big giddy about the references and Easter eggs that they place in the Lower Decks episode, right? But on the other side, I have to gauge the episode absent of those things, or if they decided to use those things, were they in the proper context or in a context that you can understand why they put it there? So with Lower Decks, it's kind of like that double-edged sword with me. So this is one of those types of episodes. It was a funny episode. There wasn't too much going on as far as exploration goes or anything like that, but I might be getting ahead of myself. So let's jump right on into it. Rand, overall, what's going on in the episode is that the Cerritos has come up on Talgana for a power systems upgrade. And again, I'm gonna look down in my notes and stuff like that because, like I said, it's a lot going on. So excuse me when I do. Now, of course, with Lower Decks, there's gonna be two separate plots going on: plot one and plot two. And what I wanted to talk about was, I guess, plot one. But before I get into that, I wanted to talk about just real fast, right? I wanted to go over these Easter eggs and references that they used in this episode. I wanted to get those out the way real quick, fast, and in a hurry, right? And the reason I wanted to do that is because, like I said, this episode had one of the most amounts of references and Easter eggs of any Star Trek episode, period. All right. So let's talk about some of those, right? So down on the planet, you have a Kirk and Spock. You have a Kirk and Spock picture that you can put your head in. You take pictures of it. Everybody know what I'm talking about. But the thing is, if you look down on the ground, what's also in the picture is a hoarder with a few of his eggs. Now, it's interesting because a few videos back, maybe 2 or 3 videos back, I had referenced the hoarder and how come we haven't seen more of them, especially since they're on good terms with Starfleet. Well, at least the miners on that planet, at last we solved them. All right. So, which from the episode Devil in the Dark, by the way, from the original series. So, uh, I don't know if you guys caught that, but at the bottom of at the bottom of that picture statue thing, was a hoarder and some of his eggs. Now they also mentioned Kirk's and Spock's cinematic chemistry. And the first thing that popped into my head was, are they trying to throw in that crazy J.J. Abrams reference movies and stuff like that? Where where they totally changed up the dynamic between Kirk and Spock. Were they actually playing tribute to the actual chemistry that the actors William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy had on camera? All right. And I'm gonna have to say, if they was referencing the J.J. Abrams movies, man, I got a new saying: Kotar when he drowned in the swamp. That's my new saying. Lower Decks is gonna. I hope Lower Decks drastically expands my Darmok and Jalad Tanagra language. All right, I hope they expand that. And now Kotar Kotar, when he drowned in the swamp. Now, we know that they species, side note, we know that they species deal in metaphors, right? So these are things that actually happened in the past. So this right here leads me to two things. So who told the story of Kotar's drowning in the swamp and how hellish that was? Who told that story? And if that person was around, why the hell didn't they help Kotar, man? You got to go help Kotar, man. Well, maybe he want to get stuck in the swamp too, but you got to go help Kotar, man. You just can't be, oh man, Kotar, man, when he drowned in the swamp. Hey, so anyway. So, what else did they talk about? They talked about the anaphasic entity. They talked about this a lot, even in plot 2 that I'm gonna get in with Rutherford and Tindy. They referenced this, the anaphasic alien. This is what I'm talking about when I say how they use the reference. All right, the anaphasic alien was from the episode Aquiel from the Next Generation, and in that episode, the anaphasic alien didn't share a personality or a consciousness or anything like that with, you know, the person that it ate or absorbed. All right, the anaphasic alien, it wasn't, I don't know how they decided to reference the anaphasic alien with what was going on with Rutherford in this particular episode, but they had the reference of it in there. Now the spore plant, from the original series. Now, the thing about the spore plant was, right, when I was looking at, oh man, they got the spore plant that jacked up Spock. But then I was thinking, hold up. The spore plant that jacked up Spock, didn't it shoot barbs with the pheromones? It shot these barbs and stuff that stuck in Spock. Now, I might be tripping or getting it mixed up with another plant that tripped Spock out. But I really thought it had barbs and it just wasn't pure mist. I may be getting that wrong. Now, they also talked about how they time traveled to save Earth 4 to 5 times. Now, look. Let's talk about this right off the bat. Let's play a game, people. Let's okay. So we have the voyage home. All right. We have time they went back. What was it? Assignment Earth. Right. We have Time's Arrow. We have First Contact. Right. We have. Did I say voyage home? I say voyage home. I think I said voyage home. Well, even if I didn't, voyage home. So that'll make it 4 to 5, and I think it's actually 5 to maybe 6, but let me know in the comments if I missed any from memory. All right. So, oh man, now everybody knows who watched this channel that I just broke out in a straight up jump up and run around the couch 2 or 3 times, right? When they said, "Yo, where's Cisco?" Yeah, man, that's what I've been saying. Where the hell is Cisco, dude? But it's nice that they had Cisco mentioned in this episode and that he was up in the Celestial Temple doing the prophet's work. All right, now. They also referenced the butt bugs, right? And I know that was a joke, but they neck bugs, man. They neck bugs. And they also even referenced by name the actual episode, which was called Conspiracy from, season 1 of the Next Generation. So they referenced the EMH and how the EMH got his rights, that he had rights and everything like that. And they even brung in the Delta Flyer. But I'm going to get to that in a minute. So let's talk about plot 1. So plot 1 is Mariner and Boimler, right? And what's going on with them is that they have to beam down to this planet and set up a Starfleet recruitment booth, all right? And what they end up doing is setting up their booth next to this lady called, what was her name? Petra Aberdeen. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Star Trek canon, I believe that they modeled this Petra Aberdeen off the character of Vash. All right, she was another low down kind of, nefarious type of archaeological character that reminded me so much of her. And for a moment, I thought the voice was Claudia Black, right? But I was like, nah. I think they're trying to just imitate Vash, right? But that was the impression I got from her, Petra Aberdeen, who is Vash. So anyway, they end up setting up their booth next to Petra's booth, which is a civilian archaeologist. All right, archaeologist. All right, so, and there ends up being a back and forth between Petra and Mariner about reasons, what's the benefits of being in Starfleet and the benefits of being a civilian out in archaeology. And this was another debate that was brought up, that was kind of touched upon in the Next Generation episode. What was it? Am I tripping? Am I tripping? But I'm gonna put it right here. But it was the one where Picard was having a conversation with his professor, and they were trying to figure out if they were going on that puzzle thing. I ain't gonna give away that episode, but that episode, it was touched on in that episode, and it was kind of done for play, using a lot of examples as to the benefits of being a civilian versus the benefits of being a Starfleet officer, basically doing the same thing. All right, now the thing is that Mariner, she has to be on her good behavior, because if she doesn't, Ransom then already said he gonna send her to Starbase 80. Okay, now the thing is that one of the things that I noticed that I was really proud that they touched on in this episode was the fact that NCOs are in Star Trek, and they're featured in Star Trek. Chief O'Brien, Yeoman Rand, Yeoman, like those titles, anything that you don't hear is ensign and up, all right, or NCO ranks. They've even featured warrant officer type ranks in there, because Chief O'Brien used to have it. And at first, when they started calling him chief and he had his first insignia, I thought that he was a chief, like a chief warrant officer 5 or something like that, which would explain him being able to double being a bridge officer as well. But they straight up just made him chief with the chevrons later on in the Next Generation. But you do see these people, and you see them running around being on crews, being on teams and all that kind of stuff, but they always focus on the officer. So I'm glad that they talked about there at least being non-commissioned officers in Star Trek. Now, so basically what ends up happening in plot 1 is that, you know, they meeting all these different species. Man, they had a plethora of species in this particular episode. They had the Talarians, the Romulans, the Bajorians. They had the Trill, man. They had the Darmok and Jalad species in this episode. They had the Collectors Guild. They had the Vidians, Andorians, etc. They even had the Move Along Home people. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot going on down on this planet and on the ship as far as the representation of species. Now, eventually, people just start picking on a man, and they end up taking the instant rank off of Boimler and throwing it, man, and you know, just talking all this bad stuff about Starfleet, man. He freaks out and just start running around kicking over everybody's desk, man, talking about how Starfleet then saved them. They wouldn't be around here if it wasn't for Starfleet, and he's right, you know. And talk about they touched on also the difference between Starfleet being a military and it being an organization. When Starfleet first started off, if you think about what they did in the prequel Enterprise, Starfleet started off without weapons on the NX ship, without Makos on the ship. All right, they were straight up just going out trying to meet people, and because of all the interactions that they had, they started needing to defend themselves by putting in phase cannons, by putting in photon torpedoes, and later on quantum torpedoes and phaser arrays and all of these types of devices, simply because of the types of species that they were running into, the Klingons, the Romulans, hell, even people who were trying to test them, you know. So they touched on the aspects of Starfleet, whether it wants to be a exploration ship or whether it wants to be a military ship, depending on the needs of the episode and plot at the time. So they end up going back up to the ship. Petra ends up robbing the museum that was located there. She ends up stealing the staff of the Grand Nagus. Look, I wonder how she got it away from Rom. You know, because y'all know Rom. Well, Rom probably forgot it somewhere, because y'all know how absent-minded Rom could be. He probably left it somewhere because, you know, his wife put on that old Dabo girl outfit that she used to wear, and you know how he gets. So, you know, yeah, Lita be hooking him up. So, anyway, Ransom comes down, man, and see everything, you know, that Boimler is going around, you know, just going off, and that Mariner, you know, her booth is surrounded by all these people that's respecting the confidence that Boimler is showing. And so they ended up signing up. Now, they end up getting back up to the ship where Boimler has to go into the brig for a while, but Ransom can, you know, basically expresses his, you know, appreciation and admiration in the fact that what he did, he was doing to stand up for Starfleet. So, told them, hey, you gotta have a drink when you get out. And the thing is, at the end, you see the whole team sitting around Boimer in the brig, and because they all homies, they all friends, and they all chilling. I like the way they ended off that episode because there are repercussions. And also, we find out that Petra has contacted Mariner to be like, hey, I noticed that you kind of not really Starfleet material, which we all have been knowing through the whole season 1 and 2 and 3, that she's not Starfleet material. And that if she should ever want, she could come and, roll with Vosh, And I think one day she's going to probably take up on that offer because she saved the contact info. Now, excuse me. In plot 2 is focused on Rutherford, and in a slight way, in a kind of, background way, Tendi. All right. Now, this is the thing. If I was going to compare this storyline to anything in Star Trek canon, the closest thing I could think of would be the episode Tuvix from Voyager. And I know that some of y'all going to be saying, Tuvix, why would you? Okay, let me explain why. In this plot 2, we find out that because Rutherford was having issues with his headpiece again, Tendi decided to clear the cache. All right, now I don't know what. Look, it's Star Trek. It's clear the cache. I ain't understand it. So what I decided to do was go talk to tech support. What is that?
Well, cache normally represents a storage area for information. So clearing the cache just means clearing the information.
Oh, so it's like wiping memory.
Kinda. I mean, what's the cache for? Is it cache for an app? I mean,
it's for the dude's head thing on Star Trek. Man, they ain't got no caches in Star Trek. The hell is that, like defrag?
No.
Oh, two totally different things?
Yeah.
But they still ain't got either of those in Star Trek.
I guarantee you there's caches of information in Star Trek.
So, after talking to tech support, I realized they probably have the same thing as a cache in the future as well. But I figured they would have had quantum computers. Look, there's a whole lot of misconceptions I have. I'm going to say that most of them are in computer software. Just PFM. And if anybody who's in the maintenance or technical field, y'all know what PFM means. But it's PFM. So anyway, she ends up clearing the cache of Rutherford, and it basically awakens old memories, or old personality, I should say, that had been suppressed within him. And we're going to call him Cool Rutherford. And the Rutherford is the actual Rutherford that we know is now only seen as reflections in surfaces. All right, so I guess that's where they get the name of the episode from. And I can extend that to actually the whole episode by, if you want to think about the things that's going on down on the planet and the realizations that all of them end up coming up with. I can understand the name of the episode, Reflections. It's a very good fit. So, anyway, we come to find out that Cool Rutherford is kind of an arse, misogynistic. He runs up on one of the Trill, the Trill girl that normal Rutherford went on a couple of dates with, and proceeds to kind of insult her. And he asked her a really cool question. He says, Trill, huh? So does your spots go all the way down? And that is directly from, what is that? Meridian from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And they even showed how far Dax's spots go all the way down. And what was it? Equilibrium, all right, from Deep Space Nine as well. So the thing is that normal Rutherford tricks Cool Rutherford into running into Tendi in the hopes that Tendi would recognize that something is off with Cool Rutherford and, get some help, which ends up happening. Now, the thing is that we get to see Chief Shax and everything. He's going after Rutherford, calls him Baby Bear. Now, as a grown man, I don't know about another grown man calling me Baby Bear. And that's a little suspect, but I ain't gonna get into that. I ain't gonna get into that. But Shax, T'Ana, Dr. T'Ana, and Tendi start searching for him, right? He ends up going to the captain's yacht, getting ready to steal the captain's yacht. Normal Rutherford delays him by hitting himself in the inside the eyepiece, which translations to short circuiting his eyepiece, which was basically the same thing that Cool Rutherford had been doing to Normal Rutherford to let him know he existed, right? So Shax ends up stunning Baby Bear, right, and takes him to the sick bay. And this is where we go inside, or what they say at the white space, but I like to call it Q space, from because the first time we seen that space was in Tapestry. The next time we seen that space was in an emissary, and whenever they basically is God's space. That's God's space. Whenever the prophets or Q or somebody want to really talk to you, they put you in God's space. That's God time out. But in that space, we find out that it's actually their subconscious, and that since Cool Rutherford's been locked in there so long, and since he's the original personality, he has a lot more control over the space than Normal Rutherford. And he ends up basically trying to tell him, hey man, look, this is our old garage. This is what we used to do. We used to do races, that was illegal around through the neutral zone area and all that stuff. And something happened to where you locked me away inside this, tried to erase me. Now, of course, Normal Rutherford don't remember none of this, so, but the coma is starting to make them, flatline. So they got to figure out a way to where it's okay, only one of us can get out of here and take control of the body. So Cool Rutherford is like, yo, look, check this out. Instead of having an engineering test, we're going to have a pure engineering design, build, and race. All right. And it was really cool that Normal Rutherford decided to build the Delta Flyer. And it goes right back to what the Delta Flyer was built for. It was built for speed. It was built for being heftier than a normal space shuttle, more maneuverable. And they got a chance to test it in the actual race in the Voyager episode. And what was it called? It was man, I'm gonna have to put that up here too. I think it was called The Race. But we got to see the Delta Flyer and its capabilities in that episode. So to have this competition be based on something similar, and to feature the Delta Flyer, and to feature the uniforms that they wore specifically for the Delta Flyer team, was a great callback, and I thought that was awesome. So basically, in summary of plot 2, what's going on. Oh, another thing that I wanted to chat about, and wait, let me finish up plot 2. So what ends up happening is that they get chased by a Romulan warbird once they get into the neutral zone, and I will say, a warbird would utterly had quickly, without effort, destroyed both of those ships with no problem. I think his imagination needs some fixing. But he ends up coming back. Normal Rutherford dies. Cool Rutherford dies, but before he dies, he ends up transferring his Katra, remember, to Normal Rutherford, where we now have a mystery into why Rutherford has this headpiece. And I'm looking forward to going into why that is. So apparently it had to do with an explosion. He kind of went off on this cyborg tip from the MCU. Really? I hope they don't do that. Anyway, so it was Rutherford's dad that had him. Anyway, so that's what's going on with that. Now, what's cool about this episode, what's cool about this plot is that during the race, he turns around and he has Boimler, Tendi, and Mariner with him. And when I say him, Rutherford, as the crew of the Delta Flyer, and they all helping him. All right, and it was really nice the way they focused on the teamwork aspect, and how having a team there's so much more benefits of having a team, and that's what Starfleet represents. As civilians, y'all going out here by yourselves and getting all messed up, like the Raven. What more can be said? Do I even need to go into more examples of how that plays off? But in Starfleet, you have a team. You have people watching your back. It's not just you going out and doing these explorations by yourself. You have family, and it makes it that much better than being in the civilian aspect. So I'm glad that they included that. Now, in closing, how did I like the episode? Like I said, I thought it was a nice, it was an okay episode. It was a nice episode. It had some humor in it. I still will not get used to the profanity that they just be throwing in because they ain't had nothing else to do. And speaking of, so Cool Rutherford is using today's well 90s and early 2000s lingo, dude, and all this type, bam, all that kind of stuff, right? And the only way I could think of that, right, is if I was talking to somebody and they started saying things like "oh chap" and or groovy. Hell, that's no. I'm talking about 300 year ago slang, like 300 year ago slang. I like, come on, man, come on, writers, come on, writers. There's ways to portray a character as cool without having to revert to that. You know what I mean? So that was just my little about this episode. But I like the episode. I love the references and Easter eggs that they put all throughout this episode. And like I said, this was probably the strongest episode in that right that I have ever seen in Star Trek. The Easter eggs, throwbacks, and references in this episode was just plenty. It was just plenty. Fruit and plenty. That's what it was. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the like button and leave a comment. And as always, peace, recycle, and say the whales. You guys be cool.